Hi everyone, back at the fishing lakes. Would you believe it? Blue skies, one or two clouds, glorious sunshine, and the temperature's on the up. And it looks as if this week we don't have any rain in the forecast, which is fantastic because it means we can get out and start looking at some of our colonies on a more regular, consistent basis. It's just been terrible, hasn't it? But now it looks as if we've got maybe a fortnight of some fairly settled weather. There might be one or two showers in the forecast, but nothing like we've had in the past month or more. So today, just to get the ball rolling again, we're going to carry out a couple of inspections for you to have a look at. One of them is the colony that had the drone foundation in it, where we've taken that away and that's in the freezer, so hopefully we can maybe have a look at that at some time. I don't really expect to find anything in it because that colony didn't have a major varroa problem, so maybe I'll have a look for some other varroa in some other drone brood to share with you. And the other colony that I want to have a quick look at is a shook swarm that we carried out. Again, this was maybe 3 weeks ago now. So I'm hoping that with the feeding that we've given them, they will have drawn out a lot of their frames, and we may be at a position where we can now get a queen excluder on them, and who knows, maybe even put a super on them. There's lots and lots of brambles in flower here, so blackberries are going to be abundant later this summer if this weather holds. But more importantly, of course, we get that fantastic honey from the brambles, and I'm really keen that we can get a few supers of that this year. So I need to get the smoker lit and grab the hive tools, and I'll see you over at the hive. So here we are. These are the two colonies that I want to take a look at, and hopefully this warmer weather is going to have an impact on their temperament, because this one over here was a little bit feisty the last time we had a look, but it was quite chilly. So I don't know if you can see all of these bees at the entrance. These are on orientation flights. You can see them kind of facing the hive, just circling around. They'll gradually move further and further away, and eventually, when they're happy, they know where home is, they'll go off and forage and hopefully bring back lots of nectar and pollen for the colony. So let's see just how well they are progressing. So this was a comb change colony. So we had moved the queen into the box at the top, and that was this green frame. Put a queen excluder in, and the bees then have come up. They're actually starting to build a little bit of comb down the side of this outside frame, which is always a bit tedious to have to deal with, but it is what it is. So let's see, I'll turn this frame around and show you what they've been doing. Let's see how they're getting on. Well, they're drawing that out very well, lots of nectar going in, and this is the side that was facing me, and you can see where they have that additional space. We've got this piece of comb here, and then this other piece that they're kind of attaching at right angles, but we'll deal with that in a moment or two. Let's pop that down. First thing that I spotted actually is the pollen that's going in is from the brambles, and it's a kind of a grey-green type colour, quite light generally. And it's quite an obvious pollen to see, particularly when you do that kind of detective work and you have a walk around your apiary and you can see the kind of plants that you've got in that apiary area. And just along the top here I can see lots of that kind of sage green, grey coloured pollen, and I know that that comes from the brambles. So we have some eggs and brood in this frame. The bees seem fine. There's a rudimentary queen cup at the bottom here. I'll just point that out to you. What I'll do is use the corner of my hive tool just to open up this cell so that I can see what's going on in the bottom, and sure enough we have an egg in there. So I'm just scooping it out. So if I turn this hive tool, you can probably just see the royal jelly on the tip of the hive tool, and right in the middle of that we've got very, very young larvae. So they are actively making queen cells. So something for us to just bear in mind as we work through. Now, if you've listened to the podcast, you will know that a lot of people have struggled with starvation and bees being very, very hungry, very light on food. So that's another thing that I just want to check as we go through. I can feel that this has a little bit of weight to it, and there is some food around the top edge here, so that's okay. And of course this week we're going to see a huge improvement in weather conditions, and there's going to be a lot of available forage for them. So we're now into the summer nectar flow, so these bees will be fine. So again, just to point out what's happening here, lots and lots of sealed brood just here. We've got a rudimentary queen cup in the corner here, so important to check, and I'll have a closer look in that in a moment. But when having found one charged queen cell, we do need to make sure that we check all of those. But lots of brood there. Just going to have a quick look. So that one actually is empty, so there's nothing in that one. But now's the time to just make sure that the bees settle down from making queen cells and get into that kind of summer foraging mode. So I'm taking my time with this inspection for you guys, just to show you what's happening on each of these frames. I think sometimes I have a tendency to rush through because I know what I'm looking at, and I sometimes forget that I need to just demonstrate what's happening. So more rudimentary queen cups. So that one has an egg in it, so we'll just crush that down. There's another one at the back there which I'll crush down, and then again over on this side we've got 2 rudimentary queen cups, and that's all you have to do. You just have to literally squish the cup down so it can't be used. So the one that I'm pointing at the moment, if I just use my finger just to push it down, that can no longer be used. But you might want to use your hive tool to just flick them open so that you can have a look inside and just make sure that everything is okay. So we've got more rudimentary queen cups in the side here, so let's just peel that one back. Nothing in that one, and nothing in those 2. So at the moment all that I've seen is just the one that has been charged. Again, lots of eggs and brood in this frame. And the bee's temperament is not bad. For the most part they're ignoring me, which is always good. So this was our original frame that we had the queen on, and you can perhaps see that it's the brood in here is a lot older, the cappings are a lot darker, and this brood is going to emerge fairly quickly now. Certainly, I would say probably in this week. So I'm just again using my hive tool and thumb just to crush down those queen cells, and then we'll flip it over and have a look on the other side. Lots of pollen being stored in this frame, and we've got a rudimentary queen cup in the bottom corner here, so I'm just going to squeeze that and make that obsolete. So for anyone that's just starting inspecting, you're just out having your first few inspections, always have a purpose for looking in your hive. It might be that you're just looking for eggs, it might be that you want to check the amount of food stores they have, but always go in with a reason to inspect. And you can see I'm not rushing, taking my time, working my way through each of these frames, looking for eggs. We've got plenty of eggs in here. Now the queen is marked, but I'm not particularly worried about spotting the queen. So if we happen to see her, then that's fine, but I guess I'm more interested in the amount of brood that we've got and the amount of space they have, and also the amount of food. Interestingly, the queen is on this frame, but the dot that she had is almost completely gone. So she's here, just walking across the frame, but the red dot that she had has been almost completely cleaned away. Not a problem, we can mark her again should we choose to, but she's laid lots of eggs, so that's all good news. Now I would say that looking at the amount of bees and the amount of food stores they've got, they probably have enough to see them through for the coming week. If the weather was going to be rather cooler than it is forecast to be, then I might be tempted to put some more food on these, but I think they're going to be fine with the forage that they have. This frame is predominantly food stores on both sides. There are no eggs or young larvae. And that brings us to the last frame. So let's have a look at this one. And this one, the bees are now working, so that's fine. Now what I'll do is just move this one inside. So the bees are working both sides of this 9th frame. So I can move that to the outside, bring this one inside, and that will encourage the bees to work on that. And what I'm doing is leaving a little bit of a gap at the end, because we had a very big gap at this end and the bees are building that brace comb. So what I'm going to do is leave a little more of a gap at the far end, and that will hopefully mean that the bees won't have so much space at this end to fill with that brace comb. And then finally we've got our final frame. I'm just going to shake the bees off so I can deal with this comb. So just a gentle shake. See, one piece of comb has fallen off, and then we've got this piece that's kind of coming out at an angle. We can peel that off, move that to one side, and we can tidy up as we go. A little bit of comb at the bottom there that's come out at a bit of an angle, and then without any bees on here, it means we can drop this back in without doing any damage to the bees that would have been on it. Still quite a gap down here, so I'm going to ease the frames across just a little bit more, and that's it with this colony. So we've got a bit of a gap at each end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 frames in our Langstroth brood box. Now, I'm not going to add a super to this today. We'll give it a few more days to allow them to draw out these end frames a little bit further, but next week I think we'll have a queen excluder and a super on them. So let's just pop over and have a very quick look. So I'll do a much quicker inspection of our shook swarm colony. So little smoke at the entrance, and then we can take the roof and feed it off. The grass is growing very rapidly now. It's been a good year for the grass growing in the apiaries. And still there's lots and lots of slugs. And they're actually building in the feeder. Now this one looks a little bit more advanced. Again, we've got this situation at the side here with quite a lot of brace comb, so we obviously need to be mindful of that. And one of the things, if you're new to beekeeping, one of the things you can use is something called a dummy board, and I think maybe we might need to employ a dummy board in these techno set hives, because there is quite a lot of room at this side, and really we don't want this situation to continue to develop. If I turn this around, you can see just the amount of comb that they are building here, so we need to try and prevent that. So this was a shook swarm from a few weeks back now. So I'm just going through, immediately I can see eggs in this frame. So this is going to be just a very quick inspection for my own purposes. So this is kind of the speed that I would carry out an inspection, just a gentle inspection. I'm looking for brood, I'm looking for food, and I'm looking for queen cells. And while I'm doing that, I'm also looking at the health of the bees. Big slab of sealed brood here, so that's good. Plenty of stores in the top of these frames, so hopefully you can see that as I'm inspecting. Lots of brood, rudimentary queen cup on this side. Just flick that open, nothing in that. Again, lots of sealed brood. Trying not to use too much smoke. Ooh. So this this frame hasn't been fitted with its foundation at the bottom terribly well, and as you can see, as I've tilted it, it's popped out. Now that's one of the issues that you can have with Langstroth frames, because very often they don't stitch it to the side of the frame. So I'm going to move that one to the side of the box, the brood box, so that I can deal with that another time. So these aren't the friendliest of bees. You can see this one is exactly the same. It's got a bit of a wobble on it, so I just have to be a little bit mindful. But also, you might be able to see that we've got some queen cells here, which these are rudimentary queen cups. Nothing in those. I'm just checking the side that's facing me. That's all fine. So we just need to be careful that they don't pop out completely. So this one, this frame, is stitched to the side wall, so that's secure. and in place. Lots of eggs and brood, so they're doing really well as well. So I'm happy with these, and they're also all the way across here. This one again isn't stitched all the way down to the bottom, so just being a little bit careful with it. Rudimentary queen cup, nothing in that, so we can pop that back in. And then finally, the frame right at the end has quite a bit of drone brood on the side facing me. If I spin it around, you can see that drone brood here. This is all drone, nothing to worry about. Bees need to have drones in their colony, but not a particularly well drawn out frame, so that can stay at the end. I'm going to pop this last, not the last frame, but this frame that was a bit wobbly. I'm just going to pop that in at the end there so that I can move it towards the outside, and then as that brood emerges we can maybe replace it with some foundation. This one is the one you can see with all that extra comb that's being built on it. So when you're moving the frames back, you don't have to move them individually. You can use your hive tool to just push all of the frames together. That will maintain the bee space and stop bees from being unnecessarily crushed as you go through. So again, I'm going to just shake. That's going to fall off. So this piece has just fallen off anyway. Let's see if we can take the other pieces off. There's the next piece. And really, I'm just tidying this up in the hope that the bees might draw out the comb beneath it. But we'll do the same thing. I'm going to give this a little bit more space on either side. So rather than centralise everything, this one I'm going to give a bit more space at this end, and hopefully they will be able to draw that out on both sides. So that's fine. Now this one, I think we could well pop a queen excluder and a super on, and then hopefully we'll get some of that lovely honey coming up into the super. So there we are, two really good examples of a comb change and a shook swarm. We're now into that summer nectar flow, and we've carried out this comb change in adequate time for them to have plenty of brood to emerge over the next few weeks and get off and do some really strong foraging, and hopefully maybe give us a couple of supers on each of these colonies. If you have any questions about what you've seen here, then do pop them beneath the video, but if not, we'll catch up next time. Thanks for watching.